So Premier Doug Ford has been continuously taking very aggressive position on this issue.
Yes.
So do you agree with that, or you would like to handle this issue differently?
I hope he will define for us what this election is about for him now. Because for me, it was never about the tariffs. It was about him and what he's done to Ontario.
Current government failed to deliver on its promise on auto insurance. What's your plan?
Why did the Premier call an election during such a difficult time when we're under threat of a crisis from our neighbors to the south? 7 years. He has had 7 years to do something about it, and he has done nothing about it. All the opposition parties said we would support a strong stimulus package. So why isn't he hard at work? And I think this government has generally failed. Why did we go to a snap election in the middle of winter at a cost of $189 million? People are angry. You know, Doug Ford said he would end hallway medicine. He didn't get it done, but I will.
Ontario Liberal ਦੇ ਲੀਡਰ ਬਾਨੀ ਕਰੋਂਬੀ ਉਹ ਅੱਜ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ 'ਚ ਨੇ। ਅੱਜ ਬਰੈਂਪਟਨ 'ਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੋਈ ਅਨਾਉਂਸਮੈਂਟ ਵੀ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਪਾਲਿਸੀਜ਼ ਬਾਰੇ, ਆਪਣੇ ਪਲੈਟਫਾਰਮ ਬਾਰੇ ਅਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਿੰਸ ਦੇ ਕੁਝ ਵੱਡੇ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਟੂਡੀਓ 'ਚ ਨੇ। Thank you, Bonnie. Welcome to our studio.
Thank you. Sat Sri Akal.
Bonnie, I'd like to start with the tariff issue.
Yes.
So Premier Doug Ford has been continuously taking very aggressive position on this issue.
Yes.
So do you agree with that, or you would like to handle this issue differently?
Well, I think we're all breathing a big sigh of relief that this is a negotiating leverage, and we bought an extra month now to get our house in order. So I wonder today, what was the justification of the election? Why did the Premier call an election during such a difficult time when we're under threat of a crisis from our neighbors to the south? We should all be hard at work at our desks to create a united response together. But now that this crisis has passed, given us some breathing space for another month as we come together and work together as United Team Canada, I hope he will define for us what this election is about for him now. Because for me, it was never about the tariffs. It was about him and what he's done to Ontario and his failures, failing the people of Ontario. For me, it's about healthcare and the lack of access to a family doctor, our crumbling healthcare system, our crumbling schools, the lack of affordability. When people stop me in the street, they tell me they can't afford their rent and their groceries and their cell phone bill in the same month, and they don't have a dream of buying a house anymore. Taxes are too high. So what is this really about? To distract people while we're under threat of tariffs when he should be hard at work, at his desk? Or is it about what's going on for the people who are standing in line 6 hours in a snowstorm to register for a family doctor?
So, as you said, you believe this is basically to distract people from the real issues.
Yes,
the same argument you can apply to the federal leadership also?
So I think this is an unnecessary election because he has a majority government. He's in power till June 2026, and he can pass whatever legislation he wants. But I think he's running away from an RCMP investigation, and I think he's trying to cling to power. All the opposition parties said we would support a strong stimulus package. So why isn't he hard at work? Why aren't we back at Queen's Park discussing our response? Why did we go to a snap election in the middle of winter at a cost of $189 million? People are angry. We knock on the doors. People open the door and say, what are you doing here? Why are we having an election now? Why aren't you at work? They are angry because they know that Doug Ford is a majority government and he should be at his desk at Queen's Park back at work.
So if we talk about local issues, then auto insurance is the biggest concern. Current government failed to deliver on its promise on auto insurance. What's your plan?
It's an excellent question. I think this government has generally failed. They said they'd end hallway medicine. They didn't deliver. They said they'd cut taxes. They didn't deliver. They said they'd build housing. They didn't deliver. They said they would address the issue of higher car insurance rates here in Brampton, and they didn't deliver. The reality is the people of Brampton have the highest auto insurance rates of anywhere in Ontario, and this has to be addressed. We have to look closely at this, and we have to fix it. There must be fairness for the people of Brampton.
But how you would fix it?
Well, I would look at the reasons why, would work with the auto insurance companies, the Insurance Bureau of Canada. Once upon a time, I used to work there. I know how these things work. I know how to fix this. I know how it can be smoothed out across the province, and it should be. There must be fairness for the people of Brampton.
Do you think we should review the provincial act that govern auto insurance
Yes,
sector?
we need to review the Auto Insurance Act that is governed by the province.
And another issue is crime and safety.
Yes. So what we know as well is Peel region, not just Brampton, Mississauga, Caledon, but even in Oakville and in Etobicoke, this whole Western GTA, really a hot button for auto theft, auto crime, carjackings, home invasions to get the keys for the carjackings. This must be addressed. You know, Peel Police, they're top-notch. They are the best in the country, and they have been working so hard to bust up these auto rings, but we need more attention. I sat on the police board too when I was the mayor, and we raised this. We had a number of conferences to bring everyone together to work together to solve this problem. We need the auto manufacturers to step up and to create cars that can't be broken into and stolen so easily. We need more measures where people can put into place to protect themselves. You know, we need Canadian Border Services to check the containers on the way out of Canada rather than just on the way in, so we can discover if there are cars being exported that have been illegally stolen.
It's not just about car theft, all crime, robberies and shootings. What do you think is the problem? Because it looks like criminals, they don't have any fear of Canadian law and order machinery.
Yes, we need stricter law and order. You know, I would reform the bail court. There should be a bail court for just repeat offenders. You did this once and you got out. Maybe you should have, maybe not. But if you do it again, much stricter rules apply. There should be a bail court for repeat offenders with no mercy. I'm very tough. I've been on police board. We must be much tougher on crime, but we must be tougher on the causes of crime too. You know, this is happening because people are struggling. Let's be honest, and this is the reality of Doug Ford's Ontario, that people can't pay their rent. They can't buy groceries. They can't pay their cell phone bills. They can't afford to buy a house. They're losing that dream. So when there is such economic difficulty, highest unemployment, highest debt, the highest deficit, loss of business confidence, jobs are leaving the province, highest youth unemployments, this is the outcome. We must fix the basics first. Make sure everybody has a family doctor. Ensure our youth are engaged. Bring in investment so people have jobs. I was very successful at this as mayor of Mississauga, bringing in investment to really diversify our economy, strengthen the economy to create jobs. People need jobs, but they need to know that they're being taken care of by their provincial government, that they have a government that's just not in it for themselves and their rich friends like this government is, but they're in it for the real people of Ontario. Our families are hurting, and they don't see any help from this government.
Yeah, but the federal politicians, they are saying they have already changed the bail law.
And it's up to Doug Ford to change the laws, to put the measures in place. He hasn't done so. He needs tougher legislation in our bail courts. It's not just catch and release. These people must be imprisoned. He knows that. He's done it 7 years. He has had 7 years to do something about it, and he has done nothing about it.
So do you also think, as some people say, that uncontrolled immigration also contributed to all these problems?
We are a country that is made up of immigrants. And, you know, yourself, you're an immigrant. My family are immigrants. And we work very hard for what we receive. Immigration makes us strong. But, you know, at the same time, I think we've seen an influx of immigrants, especially foreign students, that we weren't able to absorb. We didn't have the housing. right? We couldn't absorb in the healthcare system. We couldn't address all their needs. So we have to ensure that when people come to Canada, they qualify, like you did, and that my parents did, and your listeners did. They come and they're evaluated based on their contributions, their skills, what they're bringing to Canada. This is very important, right? But I think we have seen an influx of young students because the colleges were relying on them. Their tuitions have been frozen, their funding has been frozen, and they were relying on these foreign students. And yet we saw a lot of them came and settled in Brampton because, of course, they saw reasonable rents here. And we weren't able to absorb them in the housing. We couldn't offer them part-time jobs. We didn't have the employment for them or the health care for them, etc.
Federal politicians here, the province is responsible because they didn't act on private colleges on time.
That's right. The former Wynne government had some regulations in place to regulate this. This government lifted it, and then they froze tuitions, they froze funding, and this is what we have. Colleges that are relying on foreign students to pay their bills. But this must change. These colleges, now that there has been the number of foreign students that are coming into Canada has been severely cut back, these colleges and universities must be up to standards, they must be regulated, and they must have proper funding from the provincial government.
And another important issue is the gridlock, transit.
Oh, yes.
And Doug Ford is talking about some tunnel and NDP about 407. Look, all these are like piecemeal solutions.
That's right. There's no strategy. The 410 was so backed up today coming into Brampton from Mississauga. My goodness. But you need an integrated strategy. There's a lot of things we can do. Of course, we need to improve the GO train service. We need all-day two-way GO train service. And what I see, we need the LRT here in Brampton. We must continue to fund it and get it built because I believe very strongly in public transit, and that's where our money should go to get people out of cars. There are solutions. This tunnel is a fantasy. It wouldn't solve gridlock for 40 years and it would cost hundreds of billions of dollars. So I don't want to talk about this because it is not a realistic proposal to solve the issues of gridlock and congestion that exists today. We need to get cars off our roads. We need to invest in public transit. There are solutions like extending the 427 and maybe putting truck-only lanes on the 407, making a deal with them for the truck traffic so we can get them off the 401. We need expanded subway service too. I'm looking at expanded subway service. So there are a lot of solutions, but you need an integrated plan that everything connects together nicely. And I don't see this. I see, as you described, piecemeal solutions here and there.
Bonnie, many listeners are sharing their frustration about landlord and tenant board.
Ah, yes.
And what do you think is the problem and what needs to be done to fix this issue?
It needs to be fixed, first of all. We need to protect our tenants from these rent evictions. But, we've heard from landlords, too, that they have tenants that don't pay rent, and we must make it fair for them as well. So we need to address the backlog of cases that are sitting at the landlord and tenant board, 53,000 cases.
But what your government will do?
We need to appoint more adjudicators quickly. I promise my commitment is to clear the backlog in 3 months. We not only Zoom trials, which they have now, you need in person, because what happens when you have hearings that are in person? People talk. And when they talk off the side, they come to a negotiation and they come to an agreement and things can be settled much more easily. So we have some proposals for that, and we need phased in rent controls. Let's be honest. These work after a period of time when a building becomes of a certain age. We can, not the newer buildings, the older buildings, put in the phased in rent control as well. We need to solve this problem. It's critical for the protection for our renters, our tenants, but also the landlords.
And this is my final question. Till a few years ago, we were very proud of our healthcare system.
Yes.
And we cannot say that with that same confidence now.
Right.
So what's the wrong with our health system and how your government can fix this?
This is my top priority. Let me say that I pledge that everyone will have access to a family doctor within 4 years. This is my promise. This is the number one issue for me. The Ford government is deliberately underfunding our healthcare system. They're trying to break it. They want everyone to go to private clinics where you have to use your credit card and not your OHIP card. I'm going to recruit doctors into the system, 3,100 doctors, so that we have access. Everyone has access to a family doctor, because we see the crisis right here at the Brampton Civic and William Osler Hospital. People are waiting hours and hours for care, and people are waiting in hallways and in getting service in auditoriums. This must stop. And the reason they go to the hospital is because they don't have a family doctor. So if we solve the family doctor crisis, it'll take the pressure off of our hospitals. You know, Doug Ford said he would end hallway medicine. He didn't get it done, but I will. We're going to bring in 3,100 family doctors. We're going to recruit from abroad. We're going to bring back doctors that are practicing in the U.S. We're going to bring back our young students who are Canadian, but they were educated in medical school abroad. We're going to get them into their residency programs here. 3,100 new family doctors within 4 years, so that everyone in Ontario will have a family doctor. Our buses say 2.5 million people don't have access to a family doctor. We're going to solve that. 11,000 people died waiting for surgery, waiting for care. This is shocking, and this is immoral, and this must change.
Anything else that you would like to say in closing?
I am so honored to be a candidate for premier. I love Brampton. It is such a beautiful city. My heart is so close to Brampton, having lived in Mississauga most of my life. And I feel a really strong connection to the people here, especially the Punjabi people. But you must know that I'm Polish by background, so I like to say I'm Punjabi Polish. And bringing both our cultures together, because there's very large Polish population here too. So I feel very close to the people here of Brampton, and I look forward to serving them and their needs and ensuring that every one of them have access to a family doctor.
Thanks, Bonnie, for coming to our studio this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.